Welcome back to the Junkie Sports Media Podcast episode today. With the NBA season just about here, we wanted to do our predictions for the 2020-2021 NBA Awards. So, without further ado, let's kick it off with the most important one, the most valuable player. Davis, who is your MVP for the 2020-2021 NBA season?
All right, so my MVP for this upcoming season, I'm just going to give it a little bit of background first, and you'll kind of maybe be able to see where I'm going with it. So, a lot of things happen in threes, right? Threes just like a pretty organic number in nature. You got, the perfect little triangle, all sorts of different things. However, when it comes to MVP, that is not an award that has anything to do with threes. And so a three-peat is not in question here. So Giannis Antetokounmpo, I'm sorry, but voter fatigue is going to kick in for you. You're not winning MVP. Luka Doncic, you're a great up-and-coming player. I give all the respect and credit to you. Without Seth Curry, maybe, you have even you just take over and can win more of those clutch situations and, elevate your status. But I'm sorry, I'm not giving it to you. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, so this is for you guys. You're going to be splitting some votes because Anthony Davis is going to be trending upwards. LeBron's going to be starting to trend downwards a little bit. And so I'm sorry, but you're splitting votes. Same with Kawhi and Paul George. I'm sorry. So my MVP candidate for the 2021 season, Steph Curry. He's returning to his former glory. So here's why. So obviously, without Klay Thompson, it's going to be riding a lot on Steph Curry. So he's going to be, taking a million shots per game. I'm just throwing a random number out there. A million seems like a safe bet.
Perfect.
We know what he's capable of doing night in, night out, and what he's done in his previous MVP campaign. He's set expectations extremely high for himself, but at the same time, just in terms of, a lot of people aren't seeing them as a lock to make the playoffs. I think that if they finish as a top 6 seed, which they're fully capable of doing, people just don't really know what to expect with this current roster composition and whatnot. But they still have a lot of good scoring options, and they're not even with last season and the development of their young players. I think their bench is going to be a lot better than people think as well. And in a year of COVID where, depth matters, if people start getting sick, I think that bench is going to play an important role in them, winning some games in the middle of the season. But more importantly, Steph Curry is the dark horse or the workhorse behind them making a big push. And I think it's not even without I think there's a possibility that he could be averaging over 35 points this season. And I just think he's going to win MVP because he's going to be the one-man show. And yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think Steph Curry is a great pick. I think his stat line is going to be unreal this year. I just am heavily concerned that he's not going to get it due to the seeding that the Golden State Warriors will be in at the end of the season.
What seed do you think they need to be for him to get it?
I think it's almost like a sliding scale. Like the worse their seeding, the better stat line. I think at the absolute minimum, they have to be a top 6 seed minimum.
I think they can do that.
I think it's possible, but I think it's unlikely. I think there's easily 6 teams better than them in the West, and also I think like if they're a 6 seed, I think for him to be MVP, it has to be like an OKC scenario where it's like he elevated that team heavily, and it's like his stat line proved it. And it's like I think for him to like get MVP at that rate, it's got to be like as you said, a possibility of him averaging over 35, which he's more than capable of doing. I just think it's unlikely just because, and it has nothing to do with Steph Curry's ability to lead and elevate his team. I just don't believe in that roster. I see them as a team that they're a fringe playoff team. They're There's someone I see they're fighting for that 8 seed, maybe in the play-in tournament at the end of the season, and that's my biggest concern with it. But I do think, I mean, it's Steph Curry. I mean, anything can happen in the world of three ball. So who knows?
You
But
also, it sounds
go
like you
ahead.
don't like what you've seen from the Red Baron, Nico Mannion in the preseason so far. He's
Nico,
got very little minutes. He like the last
he had
three
a couple
minutes of the
nice
game,
passes, some
but
nice assists.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if
his
Nico
legs look
Mannion is
like
gonna.
tree trunks. He's a transformed player.
I don't know if Nico Mannion is going to be the running mate of Steph Curry on his way to winning MVP, but I don't know. Time will tell, I guess.
Hey,
I will say though, and one person I really cannot wait to see when the season starts off, because we haven't gotten to see him in any of the preseason matchups yet, is James Wiseman. I'm very interested
oh
to
yeah.
see how he plays alongside Steph. That should be very fun to see. But my MVP, a very popular one. I do think he's been overhyped a little bit, but I don't know. I believe in the kid, and that's Luka Doncic. I think if he takes just a just minor improvements across the board in his game, I mean, you're talking about someone that averaged 38 or 9 last year. I mean, dude's incredible. He's going to be without Porzingis at the beginning of the year, which should help elevate those numbers. I think for Luka, his steps forward to an MVP this year are a top 5 finish in the West and just increasing that efficiency, especially from 3. But I mean, the dude's just disgusting. I mean, he's going to go down as the best European player of all time. At least right now, we don't know about the future, obviously. But he's going to pass Dirk Nowitzki as the best European player of all time. And so I
Where do
think
you think Giannis is in that conversation?
he's not ahead of Dirk right now. I think if
You
Giannis wins
think
a
Luca
title
is already?
in the conversation,
No, I'm saying I thought you said Luca's already on his way to be better than Dirk. I would say
I'm saying he's on
Giannis
his
is
way. He's not there
already
now.
on a faster track to be better than Dirk in terms of foreign prospect. I think they both can, but I'm just
I,
saying. I
I
mean, he's
think
two-time
they both
MVP.
can. When it's all said and done, Luka Doncic is going to be a better player than Giannis. When it's all said and done, when their careers are over,
What about a
Luka's going
more
to be a better player.
dominating player? I think Luca's a better player overall, but I do
I
think
think
there's a
if we
case
look at,
for.
I think if we said like who are the best 50 players of all time and ranking the best players, Luka is going to be ahead of Giannis, without a doubt.
That's I already hate having that conversation 20 years from now
That's
just because
true.
I know defense
Dude,
isn't going
in
to
20
matter.
years from now,
What a
Junkie
shit.
Sports is going to look back on this episode and say, and I'm just going to be like, Davis, I hate to say it, but I told you so.
Fair.
But I think, I mean, for someone in their second year to be putting up the types of numbers he's doing, I mean, the kid's just absolutely incredible to watch. I just think for him, I mean, for if he makes minor adjustments, I mean, last year he was in the MVP conversation. If he makes minor adjustments, he's going to just continue to be in that MVP conversation. And I don't think people realize like the amount of leaps he can make throughout his game. I mean, he boosted his scoring average from year 1 to year 2 by nearly like 12 points a game. So
Yeah, almost
I,
got most improved player last year too because of it.
yeah, because like I mean his leap there is just incredible. I think we
Sorry
can
about that.
continue to expect and see him make these kinds of jumps in his game, and so that's why he's my MVP next year. I think for him it's team success at this point. If they can finish, I mean, if they can finish 4th in the West, which I think is definitely likely, I think he gets it if they finish 4th. If he continues to put up the numbers he does, which we have no reason to expect him to do anything less. So
Yeah, the big thing that I'm looking for Luka Doncic to be improving upon this season as opposed to last was his shooting in the clutch minutes towards the end of the game. Last year they had some absurdly unexpectedly low stats for last 2 minutes of each game, and specifically Luka did as well. And I remember being pretty shocked by that because whenever you're watching them, it's not like, yes, he's missing the shots, but they're the other team is obviously locked in on Luka, and so I mean
yeah,
he's having very hard contested shots. And not a lot of them you expect to go in, but even still, like I kind of want to see him making that next like clutch factor step before I kind of have him in that conversation, because I think a lot of these people that are, that win MVPs, they're guys that you want the ball in their hands at the end of the game. And we can't say that for certain for Luka. We know how good of a player he is, but he hasn't had those like clutch moments,
like a
at a
step back
consistent level.
three,
At a
like a step back
consistent
three
level.
in the playoffs against the Clippers or something like that over Reggie
Uh,
Jackson. He's never had those kinds of shots. I disagree completely. I think he's
I'm not
incredibly
saying he's never
clutch.
had those shots.
I
I'm
would
saying
rather have the ball
he's
in
not.
Luka's hand than Giannis late game.
If you need two, I'll take Giannis every day. If you need three, of course you'll obviously take
I think I
Luka.
would. I don't know. I think for Luka, I want to see improvements in just overall efficiency. And a lot of it is because defenses are so zoned in on stopping him. I just think he at times takes some bad, overtly contested shots. I think he could do a little bit better shot selection and be a little bit more efficient on offensively. I think that's what I look for him going into next season. But I think he's plenty fine as a clutch player. I mean,
I
I don't
wouldn't
know.
say
I
he's
don't know where
plenty
that's coming
fine.
from. I have no idea where that's coming from. I think he is, for a player in his second year to be playing down the stretch in these kinds of games and just being absolutely dominant, especially in the playoffs. He was dominant at the end of games. He was cooking the old Kawhi Leonard
That's
at
because they were already
pandemic peak.
they were already eliminated at that point, so it didn't really matter. But anyway,
Perfect. All right, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. But I will say the one last thing before we end this segment is I am interested to see, or not interested, but uh, a bit surprised that neither one of us had the two-time reigning MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, which
so
I
I
mean
wanted
I
to
know we
ask that
talked about
question.
with going into voter fatigue and that sort of thing, but I do think the biggest factor in him not winning it isn't necessarily the fact that he's won it twice, but the playoff fails, if you might say so, from the last couple of seasons from the Milwaukee Bucks. And I don't know if voters necessarily want to reward someone with a
It's a
third
regular season
MVP.
award.
I
They could
agree, but
do it
I
that
don't
way.
I don't think the voters feel that way. And I think
Yeah,
that's
they've
I
given
think
it
that's
to
why.
Russell Westbrook in the past on a bad OKC team.
Yeah, and I understand that, but if you're going to give someone a third MVP, I think a voter's going to say, would I rather give it to someone who's never won it before and he's leading this Mavericks team to a top 4 team in the West, or a Golden State team? We bring back someone who's been injured for the last year and we just haven't seen him like by himself in a long time. And he's putting
What a
up insane
story.
numbers. Are we going to give it to
All right.
him, or are we going to give it to this guy who's obviously a dominant NBA player? But when we look back the last couple of years when we rewarded him with this prestigious Most Valuable Player award, he failed come playoff time. And I think people are going to keep that in mind and have that sort of hindsight bias, if you will, that looking back and saying, why would we reward something like that?
So,
I
what
think
do you think
so.
Giannis would need to do in order to be able to secure this award this season? Do you think it's just becoming like a next level 3-point shooter from where his game was last season, or like, I mean, we know he has the defensive tool set. We know he's dominant on offense. Um, but like, do you just
I
want to
think
see a
he
little bit
has to
more
put up
versatility
a
in his bag?
historic. He has to put up like historic. Well, I can't speak. A historic stat line. I mean, and I think for him, it's got to be 32-ish a game,
But let's also
maybe
say last,
14
I mean, if we're looking
rebounds.
at how the Bucks utilized him last season, he wasn't getting,
He doesn't play that
like
much.
LeBron James minutes
Yeah,
exactly.
he's playing
And
like
so
30 minutes a game.
what if he just gets what if he gets like 10 more minutes a game or 8 more minutes a game? Do you think he's just already like having historic numbers just because of, by proxy of having
I think
those
that's
increased
possible.
minutes?
I think that's the only way he wins is if he gets that increase in minutes and he puts up just historic numbers, because I think to reward someone with 3 MVPs in a row, I mean, you really have to do something incredible. And so, and especially when, I mean, the MVP is such a weird award every year because no one really knows what's the criteria that goes into
Yeah.
this. But I don't know. I think people are just gonna want to give it to someone else this year, and so I think Giannis's trip to get that MVP, it's got to be a Bucks finish in the first in the East. They've got also like up there in like historic. Again, I know I'm using that word a lot, but I think for him to win it, like it's almost got to be like this Bucks is one of the best teams of all time in regular season sort of history. I think they
Sure.
need like they have a shortened season this year by 10 less games. I think in terms of winning percentage, like they need to be upper echelon in terms of best teams in regular history or in regular season history. And I think Giannis needs to be averaging around 33 points a game, 13, 14 rebounds. I think that's his trip to get it, assuming and that's also of course assuming that people like Steph, Luca, people like LeBron, AD are also going to continue to put up amazing numbers. And he's got the
Okay.
competition there. I think that's the stat line he needs to do to beat out other people.
No, that's fair. That's a good point. So do you have any dark horse candidates for MVP? Someone to keep an eye on that, if all of the cards fall right, they might be in that conversation come next season. Maybe a Nikola Jokic, maybe a
I have a bold
Kevin
one,
Durant. All right,
but
let's hear
Kevin
it.
Durant, actually, you just said it. I mean,
Dang, that's who my dark horse candidate was.
it's
I
only
really wanted to put him as my MVP pick. I really did.
it
But I
is a
just
little
couldn't.
it's a little dark for me for my MVP pick, but all I gotta say is this is Kevin Durant, and of course, I know I can't overreact. It's just the preseason, but my goodness, that man looks nice with it. And
Yeah,
also John Wall, both of them back from Achilles
sure.
injuries, they look nice with it. I think
What
modern
about
medicine
Rodney
has come
Hood?
around.
What about Rodney Hood? What
Yeah, he's
about
on the
his
same
Achilles?
level. But
No,
no,
I'm just saying, what is
Kevin,
his like Achilles recovery story looking like right now? First season
I
back
don't
from the Achilles.
could care less.
God, bro. Fake
Yeah,
NBA fan
Rodney
out here.
Hood's my
Fake
dark
NBA
horse
fan.
MVP candidate. But no, I think Kevin Durant, I mean, you can never discount, in my opinion, the most talented NBA scorer of all time. I mean, offensively,
A
he doesn't
lot
have
of
a weak point in
historic
this game.
legacy all-time stuff being
This is a
thrown around on
crazy
today's
segment
episode.
today, but no, I think
Wow.
Kevin Durant, without a doubt, has a chance. I mean,
Oh yeah.
if we see old Kevin Durant, I think the NBA should be very, very scared because that man
Yeah.
is an assassin.
Oh, absolutely. I do think though that Nets team is going to face some struggles early on. Um, but a lot of that's going to just come down to being able to integrate KD and Kyrie around the
Yeah,
pieces that they've had last season and some of their new additions in the postseason, new coaching, new uh I mean, there's just a lot of like new things, and we didn't see the Miami Heat whenever they got LeBron for the first time. They weren't coming out of the gate with like, ridiculous synergy from day one, and so I
yeah,
think we could see that same level of, a little bit of struggles early on. But furthermore, I think Kevin Durant. The only reason I didn't have him as my pick is because Kyrie is also there, and I think they're going to be sharing, a lot of the scoring that an MVP caliber player would need to be putting up. And yes, we've seen Kevin Durant do it on teams with good talent around him in the past as well. And so that's not necessarily a detracting factor from why he won't win MVP. However, that's why I had Steph Curry edge him out because I think they're both, former MVPs, very dominant players in their own skill set. I just think because Steph Curry doesn't have as much help around him, he's going to be, putting up more ridiculous numbers than KD. I just wanted to give KD a big shout out here
yep.
for the dark horse because I do think it's absolutely within the realm of possibility that even 10 games into the season where everyone's looking around like how do we not have him as our clear runaway favorite to win MVP? Do we forget how good this man is, how cold he is?
He's an
um
assassin.
and I also think you can't throw out James Harden. I mean, we know what he's been capable of in the past, former MVP, and now you could say with John Wall, still early on in preseason, but I don't want to overreact to some of that. So we could just say, going from Russell Westbrook to John Wall, maybe there's more of a scoring responsibility on James Harden, which anytime there's more of a scoring responsibility on James Harden, and assuming he doesn't get traded mid-season, yeah, he might be taking over 1 billion shots a game,
Yeah.
maybe a trillion. So
There's a lot of players this year that I truly think are genuinely in this MVP conversation. I think we're starting to get into that weird spot, and we're going to have this for the next couple of years, where it's this younger
thanks, LeBron.
talent, this youth crop of talent in the NBA who are setting into their prime, and that the top of that is like Luka and Giannis, and these people are going to be in that MVP discussion. And then we have these other players that are like the little bit older generation that are sort of in their prime or starting to leave it. I mean, we got like the LeBrons, the KDs, the Stephs, and so on. I think there are a lot of potential people, and we're going to be very, very confused and nervous about who's going to win this the next few years. Because honestly, and we can pick and discuss this all day long, but honestly, it could go to a number of people. And so it's going to definitely be interesting to see.
Absolutely.
All right, with that, that wraps up our MVP segment.